Next up we've got Darren, who's going to speak to you about using the Pibrella in the classroom. Oh, got a better microphone.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Darren, as Mike's just said. I was going to do some slides with this. I've got them here, but it's probably easier if I just switch between the Pi and the screen. It's VJ4, is it?
Yeah, VJ4.
So if I just switch to here, you see that okay? Right, let's get some point with. That'd be handy. Bad as a teacher, I normally have a pocket full of them. Right. What we have here on the screen is a Raspberry Pi with a little plug-in board here called the Pibrella. I love the Pibrella. It's great for teaching the classroom. As Clive said earlier, one of the advantages of the Pi is physical computing, connecting to devices. If you're just going to use Scratch or Python just to do stuff on the screen, yeah, we have laptops and PCs that are a lot better than that. It's when we start plugging things into the Pi that we can start making things interesting for the students and capturing their imagination. But one of the problems you have using the Pi in the classroom, unless you're lucky enough to need them standing set up already in the classroom, is setup time. And this is where one of the advantages of the Pibrella is it's very quick to set up. You just plug it into the Pi, switch it on. As long as your library is downloaded, which you only have to do once, it's there ready. The other advantage of the Pibrella is, if you're like me, I'm not really that knowledgeable at electronics. Before I started teaching, I was a programmer writing software. That's where my skills is, not soldering and LEDs and resistors and all that stuff. So for me to engage with students to get them to use LEDs, so we can use my expertise to help them and engage them, something like Pibrella is fantastic, because you don't need to do any soldering or using the breadboards and stuff. The Pibrella comes with 3 LEDs in the middle, a red, yellow and green one. It has this red button here, a nice button. Coming across a bit black here is a little buzzer that they can control as well. And then labelled in and out, you can also connect other sensors and stuff to it too. And if you need the extra power, because you haven't got enough being provided by the Raspberry Pi, there's another USB power source as well. And the nice thing about it as well, it's not that expensive either. It's $9.99, so a tenner. Let's see if we can get this back up. No. So if I go back to HDMI 2, was it?
Yeah.
The Raspberry Pi. I'll give you a little demonstration of using that in a minute. The Pibrella comes with a library you can download from GitHub that Pimaroli provided for it, but it's supported by Scratch GPIO as well. So it's not just limiting to those that know Python, you can use Scratch with the primary school as well, so you can have primary school kids playing with LEDs, buttons and buzzers and stuff too. With one of the things about using the GPIO ports is you need to be running as the super user on Python, and this is why I brought up the terminal window. Place. Because one of the things, if you just click on the idle icon, you'd need to, if you're running your Python programs, come out and run from the command line. If you kick idle off with sudo and then idle from the command line, you can run them from within the editor. So that's the standard idle. Just get started a new session. Right, so that's your standard plain editor, then idle, and it's the same problem as the last presenter. Back to the screen. And that's all it is to get the library in. It is a really nice library, one line to import it in once you've installed it. It's really quick and easy to do, and I'm just going to import the time library as well, so we can use the sleep command, and I'll do. Yeah, it's not bad though, because with my back to the. Correct that, and then so what I'm doing here is using the built-in library light on. And that's going to switch on all 3 LEDs. So it's VGA 4. Let's go back. So I'm going to press 1 first. Let's put sleep in, else we're going to miss the action. Give the time for the monitor to swap over. Time there. It was about 3 seconds, wasn't it? Swapping over. Let's just.
Yeah, save it first.
It will. Just give that. See, all 3 lights have been switched on. You know, sleep for a couple of seconds and go off. But so that's not many lines of code to switch all the lights on. You can access them individually as well by adding. I've mistyped it. Yeah, I didn't put a number in there. So if you wanted to access the individual lights, you would put just take one off there to say red. Yeah. So within, what's that? 1, 2, if you take out what state I put in to swap in between screens, 5 lines of code, you're switching an LED on and off and having a delay, leaving it on there. And it's similar as well for using the buzzer. So I'll get rid of the red. The buzzer is quite a cool one to play with. It has some predefined sounds there already. Just turn the light, haven't I? You'll notice there's a theme with their library that after the Pibrella, you're actually given the list of the devices that you want to use. And I'm going to, and let's put another. Okay. And same again. I don't know if you heard that, it's very low. So, but that played the alarm one. It's got a couple of others predefined in there as well. Plus, you can do individual notes, and with it as an actual musical note value from 0 to 100 they relate to. Plus, you can do it by frequency as well. The other cool thing with the Pibrella is the switch. And that's a great opportunity for teaching the students about polling and interrupts or event-driven programming. Because you can have them keep checking the switch over and over again and check to see if it's been pressed or not. And you can show them that, well, that ties up the Raspberry Pi or the computer. They can't do anything else. And then you can then instantly show them how, within a couple of lines of code, they can set it up so they do have an event-driven one, so you only have something happen when the button is pressed and they can go off and count to 100 or something like that. And I have a demo of that for the workshop for people to look at. So where can you get these from? Well, you can see the Pibrella out in the foyer. There's a couple of stands there I noticed earlier selling them. Online as well. I think they do discounts for bulk. Yeah. They're very supportive and helpful as well with the problems of the code. Before Christmas, they hadn't released the official library at that point, and you're just having to program the Pibrella directly through the GPIO, which is great. You can still do that if you wanted to and want students to know that low level, but the library they provide takes all that donkey work out for you. There's no setting up and having to remember, well, it's the red LED on pin 6 or 7 or whatever the mapping is, which one's the green, what's the blue button on, and having to configure the pins as well. So for the classroom, the library they give that you can download is fantastic because all the donkey work's done for you behind the scenes. I think it's a great product to use in the classroom with students, so I think they have a lot of fun with it. So any questions about the Pibrella? Yeah?
Can you connect external components to it?
You can. There's let's swap over. Here. There's 4 input and 4 outputs, and there's little LEDs as well to show when they're in use. Said my electronics knowledge isn't that great, so it's not something I've played around with. I might pick my colleague's brain behind over there on that side. He's more into electronics than I am. As I said, my area of expertise is software, so something like the Pibrella allows me to start making it a bit more interesting, especially when you, as I said, about teaching the difference between polling and then event-driven stuff, where they can actually press a button and get something to happen, and it's a physical demonstration of it instead of if you type it up with something within Windows, whether it's Visual Basic or C# or Python or something like that. This just makes it a bit more fun for them. There will be a copy of my worksheets on my blog, but there's also a little demo tying it in with Minecraft. So when you press the button, it produces a message in Minecraft, but you could get the kids to do anything on there. So if they're near an object within the Minecraft world, you could get them to light up an LED or sound a buzzer, something like that. So it's one of those things. Minecraft's a great thing. when you start tying it into other bits and pieces, like the Pibrella, to interact with bits and pieces. You could even have the buttons to do as the previous gentleman did with his basic, have some rain happen every time you press a button or set some other event off.
Did you say you can also program it through the Scratch environment?
Yes, Scratch GPIO, that supported quite well very early on, didn't it?
Very we actually had a workshop at
Yeah.
one of the previous jams where the kids really loved playing with it.
Have we got electronic versions, worksheets of that?
Yeah, they're on the CamJam website.
Yeah. So if you go to the CamJam website, you'll be able to pick up those worksheets. They were quite good, I remember.
Yeah,
I saw those.
with
Yeah.
Dan Cotton.
So there's not many demo example Scratch stuff on. I don't think there's any on Pibrella's website for Scratch. It's all Python, I think.
Yeah, I think it is all fun.
So the Scratch stuff is probably the best source is the worksheets on the CamJam side for the Scratch side. But I had a go. I was at that one. That's very easy to do.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah.
If you grab me afterwards, I'll give you the name of somebody, the person who wrote it, and you might be able to give you some more information on it.
Because yeah, it's not just the Pibrella links, but it's anything through GPIO, isn't
Is that
it?
Scratch GPIO?
Yeah.
Yeah, just mention it at Simple Sci. It's at CYMPLE.
Right.
Is it right?
Yeah, CYMPLE.
He's watching and listening to all.
Oh, okay.
So say hi, Simon.
Hi, Simon. And he's also linked it with started adding Minecraft to it as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So you could do the same thing as I've been talking about with the Python side of tying up the Pibrella and Minecraft together using Scratch GPIO. So, and we know what Minecraft's like with the kids. It's like crack, isn't it? So, is that it? I hope that's been of use. And sorry.
You said about the separate power inputs. You're
Yes.
not using separate power.
I'm not. I don't need it. But if you're using the external, the other input outputs and stuff, you may need it to do, power some of the sensors or stuff.
Does that then backport to the Pi? Because we have problems with USB hubs backporting and things like that in terms of when you.
I don't know. You'd have to ask.
If you use the separate power, it will power the Pi from it.
Right. So it needs to be put on before you
Oh yes.
power anything up.
Yeah.
And powered down before you take it off.
Yeah. Or if you see me do, I'm really bad powering my Pi down. I don't shut down. I just switch the power on. I'm impatient.
Any more questions?
And the workshop's full, but there's space for people to. Well, I've got my Pi's this video as well, so probably room for a couple more to play around with as well. There's loads of worksheets with me too. So,
Yeah.
what time's that? It's not too long now, is it?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully see some of you in the workshop.